Of course, all our attention is on Gaza and the genocide that is happening there, and that's appropriate, and it's good that that's the focus of the discussions here. But we have to also understand that Gaza is a part of a wider settler colonial enterprise of Zionism in Palestine in general, and that while Gaza, the attack on Gaza since October 7th has risen, and the South Africans, I think, have shown this in the ICJ, to the level of genocide. In fact, it's really a peak of what we might call a process of slow genocide or incremental genocide that's been going on certainly since 1948, even 1947, but certainly with roots well beyond that. You know, the Zionist forces helping the British, for example, in the Great Revolt of 1936 to repress Palestinian resistance as well. So I think we need that wider perspective. And we have to understand, you know, the idea that Zionism is settler colonialism has become, I mean, the good news is that's become a very popular, you know, it's broken through the academic barriers and it's become a part of the popular discourse. The problematic with it is that it's not really understood. And sometimes it's used more as an accusation, simply a standalone Zionism instead of colonialism, and now it's bad, and we simply move on, instead of really imparting to people the importance of the concept. It means something. And genocide is built into settler colonialism. Settler colonialism, especially, not every, maybe, really in every source of settler colonialism, how it's expressed, of course, depends on how large the indigenous population is, the colonized people, and how much they can resist and what their national aspirations are. But certainly in the case of Zionism, the elimination, the erasure of the Palestinian people is built into the Zionist project. In other words, Zionism came to Palestine with the intention of taking it over, of transforming Palestine into Israel, transforming an Arab country into a Jewish country. And the only way that could be done in a country that was populated by another people was to deny their very existence. Until today, Israel, even with Oslo and all the other negotiating processes, Israel has never, ever recognized the existence or the national rights of the Palestinian people. So their existence as a people are denied. And of course, they have to be displaced because you can't take over another country and leave the people on the land, and you have to take their land. And so we can see very methodically and systematically the destruction of the Palestinian people really since 1947-48, since the Nakba. And that's really important because that's, in other words, it's whatever arguments there are of whether Gaza itself, what's happening in Gaza today, rises the level of genocide, is really put to bed when you put Gaza within the wider perspective. And we have to also keep attention focused on the West Bank and what's happening. You know, the militarization of the settlers and the expulsion of Palestinians from their villages and the ethnic cleansing of Area C. So that all of this has to be in front of us. And I have a lot more to say, but I'll jump to my conclusion in a way because we only have a few minutes. And that is, I think we should have to stop talking about the two-state solution. This is a real problem. There is no two-state solution. And it's a misunderstanding of what settler colonialism is. And it's the fatal trap that the PLO fell into in 1988 when it recognized Israel. Since its inception in the middle 60s, the PLO had properly defined Zionism as a colonial movement, and it was an anti-colonial resistance movement to liberate Palestine. In 1988, because of all kinds of pressures, it gave up the colonial struggle and began to get into this weird two-state, as if there's some symmetry between the sides, and as if Israel is really ready to take, even 22% of the country it claims and turn it into a Palestinian state. What we're talking about when we talk about the two-state solution is apartheid. It has to be. It has to be. If you look at the facts on the ground that have been created and the whole meaning of settler colonialism, it has to be the state of Israel, as it's recognized by the UN, on 78% of historic Palestine, plus East Jerusalem. For Israel, East Jerusalem is not even negotiable. And that's supported by the international community, especially the United States, plus the major settlements. Israel has 750,000 settlers in the occupied territories in huge settlement blocks going from the north to the south. So all the Palestinians are left with, in the best case scenario, in this so-called two-state solution, is apartheid. And the South Africans should certainly understand this. An island in the north of the West Bank, the West Bank divided by the settlement of Ariel, an island in the center of the West Bank for Palestinians, divided by Greater Jerusalem, Ma'ale Adumim, an island in the south of the West Bank, and Gaza. It is non-sovereign. They have no control of their borders. It's not viable. And therefore, we have, in my view, I'm part of the One Democratic State campaign. We have to start talking about we have to talk about a political solution, a program that's crucial. And I think it should be one democratic state. That aside, it's time to stop talking about the two-state solution. And if genocide is happening with the entire Palestinian population over all of Palestine, the political solution to that is an anti-colonial solution that relates to the Zionist colonial enterprise over all of Palestine and not just certain pieces of it. So I'll leave my intervention there.